All right, so breaking news. Jorge Masvidal against Colby Covington is on. They're going to be headlining UFC 272, which goes down on March the 5th in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's talk about it. Before we do, my name's Rahul Jaishan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. All right, so literally within the last half an hour, Ariel Helwani has tweeted out that UFC 272 will be headlined by Masvidal against Colby Covington. He said that they have reached a verbal agreement, although it hasn't been officially signed. Having said that, if they verbally agreed, you're assuming that they've agreed to the date, they've agreed to the opponent, and they've agreed to their purses. So what else is there left to agree to without signing for the fight being just a formality? Aside from Ariel Helwani, John Anik has also posted on Instagram a picture of Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal with the caption something like 53 more sleeps or something like that. However many days there are left until March the 5th. That's basically what he's saying. Now, obviously, UFC 272 was originally going to be a double header for two title fights. So UFC announced last week that it was going to be headlined by Volkanovski against Holloway 3, and then the co-main would have been Peter Yan against Aljamain Sterling 2. Those fights have now moved off, and they'll be on UFC 273, which is in April, I believe. And obviously also Max Holloway has already dropped out of that fight, and it looks as though Korean Zombie is going to be the replacement. But focusing on Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington, now look, this is a fight that both of them have been crying out for best part of 2 years. When I say crying out for, there's been certain times where I felt as though, do either of them really want it? Do they actually really want this fight? Or is it just bravado? Do you know what I mean? Like, what I couldn't really tell whether they actually really wanted this fight. One thing that I can be certain of is Jorge Masvidal has been very vocal about wanting to fight ASAP. And it's quite funny, actually, because I've just literally, I think it was either earlier on today or yesterday, watched a video on YouTube that Chael Sonnen posted where he was questioning Jorge Masvidal. Not so much for his for the fights that he picks, but whether Jorge Masvidal actually realizes how much of a star he is, how much of a box office attraction he is. I think he even called him the second biggest star on the roster in that video. And I suppose what the message that Chael Sonnen was trying to convey is Jorge Masvidal doesn't need to take these tough fights. He's a big enough star to be a bit more strategic in terms of picking opponents where he has a better chance of winning, and he can just continue doing that to elongate his his stay at the top of this I don't know, at the peak of his powers as a box office star, I suppose is a better way of saying it. So he can just keep that money rolling in. But I suppose the counter argument to that is you have to rate Jorge Masvidal, right? Now, whether you're a fan of his or whether you're not, he can very easily do what Chael Sonnen is saying, but he's not, because I honestly believe that Jorge Masvidal deep down believes that he is good enough to be the champion, and the only way to become the champion is to beat top contenders. So you fight your way to the #1 contender spot, so you get a shot at the champion, right? And that's precisely what he's doing. Like Jorge Masvidal, he's had back-to-back defeats against Kamaru Usman, so it's going to be difficult to sell a third match between the two, right? Because he lost the first one convincingly. The second one was even more convincing with a brutal knockout. So he's going to have to do something special to be able to sell to the UFC and the paying audience a third fight with Kamaru Usman. And one way you do that is by beating Colby Covington, you know. Aside from his endeavors or his chase for that championship, you have to also consider the saying that I was thinking of earlier is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I had to actually Google it because I kept thinking, what is the saying? And I couldn't remember it. But there is a saying, and it's the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And I believe that precisely exemplifies Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal, because you can put either of them two in a fight against anyone else, not only in the weight division but on the roster, and it wouldn't garner the attention that a fight between these two together is going to get, right? The hype is going to be unreal. And actually, I'm glad that this fight is only 6 weeks away, because do you remember like a few months back where they were kind of both talking about potentially being coaches on The Ultimate Fighter? And I personally felt as though that's such a terrible idea, because I just felt like it would oversaturate the hype, like it would peak during the show and then it would start to decline, because I just felt like it would just be too much, man, just too much of Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal. I didn't feel like that was the right way to build this fight. And I feel like with them booking it in just 6 weeks, it's a short sprint for both of these two guys. They're both going to be doing media, individual interviews. There'll be maybe 1 or 2 press conferences between the two of them, and I feel like that's more than I feel like that's perfect to build this fight, for it to peak in terms of traction for the paying audience, and for pay-per-view buys and things of that nature. Now, from Colby Covington's point of view, I feel as though he probably thinks that he's landed on his feet. Like, he's had a defeat against Kamaru Usman. He's lost to Usman twice himself. And it might be I don't know, it could have been a case of where does he go from it? Does he just go back down the division and have to fight the not that there's anything wrong with it, but the Gilbert Burnses of this world, or even like Wonderboy Thompson or Leon Edwards, or do you know what I mean? Like, fights that potentially wouldn't maybe get him up for or as excited as a fight against Kamaru Usman. Like, one thing about both of these men is you can tell that they really, really enjoy the limelight. They really enjoy the attention that they've got over the last couple of years headlining these events. And just if you really think about it, like Colby Covington, between the Kamaru Usman fights, it was a fight against Tyron Woodley, and it wasn't even a pay-per-view. It was like a fight night. Do you know what I mean? So what would it have been realistically for Colby Covington if he didn't fight Jorge Masvidal in March? Personally, I'm really looking forward to this fight, although I'm a little bit annoyed. And the reason why I'm annoyed is I've literally just posted, like a couple of hours ago, a video with me making an argument on behalf of Henry Cejudo to be the replacement for Max Holloway against Volkanovski, and the dates and the timings that I've said in that video are now all wrong, because obviously that fight has now shifted over to April. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, man. As I said, I had no intention of making another video today. This is breaking news, hence why I haven't got the camera out. I haven't set my desk up and all of that stuff. I just thought I'd do a quick audio for you guys, so I could just kind of react to the fact that this came out of nowhere. Breaking news. And as I always say, videos come out on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but if there's something that's really compelling, if there's something that breaks that I need to talk about, I try and do it. And that's what I've just done. So share your thoughts below. Feel free to give me your opinions about the fight. Feel free to give me your opinions about anything that I've said. I'd really, really, really appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with a friend or 7. I'll catch you guys on Thursday. Unless, of course, there's more breaking news tomorrow.